This is the scariest internet rabbit holes iceberg by the Reddit user Shy Plaster Lord. A rabbit hole is more or less an extremely deep collection of information regarding a certain subject. Some rabbit holes are interesting, complex, even life-changing. Some are simply terrifying, and those are the ones we're going to cover here. If you don't know by this point, an iceberg has more known subjects at the top, and as you go lower, the subjects become more and more obscure. With all that being said, let's get into it. Mount Everest deaths. As of the recording of the video, August 2021, around 305 people have passed away on Mount Everest. The reason this rabbit hole is disturbing is because of what causes these incidents and what happens after they end. Causes can range from storms, falls, avalanches, and lack of oxygen. After a climber's life ends, their body is commonly left on the mountain, sometimes perfectly preserved by the weather conditions. Salad Fingers. Salad Fingers is an animated web series that was created by David Firth in 2004. It stars the main character, Salad Fingers, in his interesting adventures. Starting off on episode 1, the tone is set to be pretty weird and disturbing. In episode 1, Spoons, Salad Fingers describes how much he likes rusty objects and how touching them makes him feel good, to put it lightly. Over the next 11 episodes, Salad Fingers continues to experience many disturbing and creepy interactions with humanoid creatures, the environment, and even himself. These episodes can seem confusing or incoherent at first, seeming to stand alone. However, as you fall down the rabbit hole, you'll understand this is a story that's more deeply woven together than you may think. Several YouTubers have discussed this series and the theories surrounding it, such as the film theorists, Rainbot, and CP Games. 9/11 conspiracy theories. 9/11, or the September 11th attacks, were a series of 4 attacks against the US by Al-Qaeda that occurred during September 11th, 2001. There are a lot of conspiracy theories about this event, unsurprisingly. There are way too many theories to get into detail with here, but I'll summarize some of them. The most popular two are that either the government are the real ones behind the attacks, or that the destruction of the World Trade Center was a controlled, purposeful demolition. There are also others that claim, for example, that American Airlines Flight 77 didn't crash into the Pentagon, but that the damage to the Pentagon was from a government-operated missile, that the Israeli government played a part in the attacks, and that Flight 93 was shot down by a US fighter jet. The reason, in my personal opinion, that these are disturbing is that they completely disregard the tragedy that took place, the thousands of people that were devastated because of the attacks, and the families and friends whose lives will never be the same, all in the name of conspiracy. Besides that, the deeper you go, the more intense and out there these conspiracies will become, and maybe if you venture too deep, they'll start to make sense. That word, otherwise known as mature anime and manga as far as AdSense is concerned, is an animation or art style that has been occurring in Japan as far back as 1814 with the creation of the painting The Dream of the Fisherman's Wife, for example. The reason this subject is on the iceberg is because there are some extremely intense and disturbing themes and subjects that some of these anime and manga can cover. Realistically, with a minimal amount of Google searching, you'll find what you're looking for, and you'll probably wish you hadn't. SCP Foundation. We secure, we contain, and we protect. These are the words of the administrator, otherwise known as the chairman of the SCP Foundation. The purpose of this foundation is to investigate certain anomalies in the world and secure them, contain them, and protect everyone else from them. There are more lighthearted SCPs like SCP-2598, which is a moth that attempts to ironically pitch a sale for helmets designed for moths. But there are also more horrifying SCPs like SCP-049, the Plague Doctor, a creature that tends to speak in Old English or French and claims to be attempting to rid the world of a supposed disease. If he touches you, it will be fatal. After he works on his now deceased cadaver, he eventually revives it, only now it's virtually a zombie. It's harmless unless it comes into contact with another human. The further down the SCP rabbit hole you go, the more terrifying SCPs you'll find, and the more you'll question reality itself. Creepypasta. Creepypasta, derived from the phrase copypasta, are a series of copy and pasted horror stories and urban legends that go around the internet. The origins of creepypasta are refuted, with some claiming that old email chains in the late 1990s are considered creepypasta, while others claim that Ted the Caver, posted in 2001 on the website Angelfire, is truly the first creepypasta. Stories like Jeff the Killer, Sonic.exe, Smile Dog, and Slenderman are examples of popular creepypasta. Those who aren't experienced in the world of creepypasta yet may find themselves slowly becoming enveloped in a completely new and horrifying world. FNAF lore. FNAF, or Five Nights at Freddy's, is a game series created by Scott Cawthon in 2014. It spans over 9 main series games and 1 spin-off. If you've ever watched any popular horror gaming videos in the past 6 years, you've probably seen a lot of this game, especially if you watch MatPat from Game Theory. The lore of these games is deep and covers many disturbing themes. What seemed like a simple security simulator becomes much more the more you research. Titanic Conspiracy. The RMS Titanic was the White Star Line operated passenger liner that sank in the North Atlantic Ocean on April 15th of 1912. Around 1,500 of the 2,224 passengers didn't make it. There are many conspiracies surrounding this event. One of the most popular Titanic theories is that the actual ship that sank was not the Titanic, but its sister ship, the Olympic, and that the ships were secretly switched prior to the accident. As with the other conspiracy theories, the deeper you go, the more outrageous these theories may get, but again, they may just begin to make more sense than you'd like to admit. Just saying the name will probably give me the yellow demonetization mark of doom, so I'll try to avoid it. This event occurred on April 20th, 1909 in Columbine, Colorado. Side note, this is the first time I've actually looked into this, and I never realized the actual city had the same name as the high school. Anyway, this cataclysmic event, caused by two students, those being Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, took the lives of 13 people, those being 12 students and one teacher. It should be pretty obvious why this rabbit hole is so disturbing, but I'll go into it anyway. Besides actual 911 calls and images of the aftermath for a start, there are also more disturbing aspects, such as the many individuals that have an attraction to the perpetrators of this event, and the many people that have caused their own destruction and have claimed inspiration from them. Be careful venturing into this one. If you're not stable, it could point you in a very bad direction. Anything on 4chan. 4chan is an anonymous English language image board website that was launched by Christopher Poole in October of 2003. Pretty much any topic is discussed on the site, and they currently have around 20 million monthly visitors with around 900,000 posts made daily. The reason this iceberg likely says anything is because of the anonymous nature of 4chan and how that's created many disturbing posts in the past. Really, there are so many that it would need an entirely separate video. However, to summarize it, the anonymous nature of this site allows people to show and admit things that they really shouldn't. McCamey Manor. McCamey Manor is described as an American non-profit haunted house attraction where survival horror events are performed. This house is open year-round and participants can be inside up to 8 hours. Before anyone is allowed in, they must sign a liability waiver. As you can imagine, anywhere that makes you sign a waiver just to enter is probably not free of controversy. This is the reason it finds its spot on this iceberg. To summarize these controversies, patrons were put under extremely horrific conditions, including but not limited to waterboarding, being forced to eat and drink unknown substances, and being bound and gagged. You can even have teeth removed and be tattooed without your consent. Although it's been claimed that within this 40-page waiver all these risks and more have been plainly stated, people obviously are still not very happy with the conditions certain people have to endure, especially when one woman, Laura Hertz-Brotherton, said the safe word for several minutes before she was finally let go. Their facility in Summertown, Tennessee has also been under much controversy as the neighbors do not enjoy the things they're forced to see and hear. This is only the tip of the iceberg, no pun intended, so you can see why this rabbit hole is so disturbing. Everywhere at the End of Time. One of my personal favorite albums, Everywhere at the End of Time by The Caretaker, is a 6-hour-long album that depicts the mind of someone suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia. Stage 1 of the series depicts initial signs of memory deterioration. Stage 2 depicts the self-realization and awareness that something is wrong with a refusal to accept that. Stage 3 depicts some of the last coherent memories before confusion finally rolls in and the gray mists form and fade away. Stage 4 depicts the point where the ability to recall singular memories gives way to confusions and horror. Stage 5 depicts confusions and horror. Stage 6, the final stage, depicts the end, the final stages of deterioration, the few minutes of clarity, and the end of life of the patient. The last 6 minutes are my personal favorite, as the sound of the choir has always fit perfectly in older videos I've made. That being said, there are further theories and explanations concerning this project that make this rabbit hole disturbing. That side of YouTube. To be honest, there are a few places that could be considered that side of YouTube. However, in my personal opinion, this is talking about the weird side of YouTube. This can start by simply clicking on one odd video, and before you know it, you're listening to a man's schizophrenic ramblings or viewing a crudely made ARG that only has 10 views. Falling down this rabbit hole can have a lasting impact, especially since there are a lot of horrific things that fly under the radar. Another name I'm not sure I'm supposed to say, this extremely horrific and well-known historical event lasted from 1941 to 1945 across Europe. This caused the loss of around 6.5 million people and ruined millions of lives more. It shouldn't be hard to understand why this would be a disturbing rabbit hole. From the eerie images that come from the events to disturbing first-hand accounts and the many conspiracy theories, this rabbit hole has many disturbing stops on the way down. Temple OS. Temple OS is a biblically themed operating system created by Terry A. Davis. He created it over the course of a decade. The reason this rabbit hole is as disturbing as it is because Terry A. Davis is an extremely mentally ill and disturbed man. With some research, you can find videos of him rambling on and on, typically incoherently about a variety of subjects. whether that be aliens or religion or more distasteful things that I won't go into here. Watching a man further and further deteriorate mentally can be quite the scarring thing to see. MK Ultra. This is such a deep subject, I'm going to make it the quickest and simplest explanation of all of them. This event was a program of experiments on human subjects that were done by the US CIA, testing out different techniques to force confessions and brainwash people. Besides the obvious horrific nature of these experiments, the amount of conspiracy theories and actual truth that surround the subject is insane and as disturbing as it gets. Elsagate. Elsagate surrounds a series of YouTube Kids videos that, although being seen as child-friendly on the surface, actually contain many disturbing adult themes. These videos feature many copyrighted characters, and to put a long story short, this caused a lot of controversy. The further you go into this rabbit hole, you'll understand how many things have gone under YouTube's radar and how this can hurt children. Ellen School. The Ellen School was a private education behavioral modification program that existed in Poland, Androscoggin County, Maine. It was closed down due to allegations of abuse. These included student beatings and even being forced to clean urinals for hours just for smiling without permission. These issues and even more disturbing ones are why this rabbit hole is on the list. Bohemian Grove. This restricted campground in Montevideo, California is the subject of many theories regarding the elite, hence why it's on this iceberg. Only rich and powerful men are able to access this place, and the talks that they have are unknown to the general public. There's a video showing an odd ritual in which a large wooden owl or other type of figure is being burned, which only adds to the mystery. Falling down this rabbit hole will definitely lead to some intense conspiracy theories and dark territory overall, so you've been warned. Jonestown. This refers to the People's Temple Agricultural Project, also better known as Jonestown, and the gruesome tragedy that befell them. Jim Jones, the leader of this cult, convinced over 900 people to take their own lives using cyanide-laced Kool-Aid. This is, of course, where the phrase, "don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from. However, I'm just covering the surface of the surface. If you really feel inclined, you can look into the much more disturbing details yourself. Witchcraft and music. This could mean three things to me. The first is the recent trend of northern Ghanaian women that were accused of witchcraft and fled. Subsequent songs have been made by them telling their stories and speaking of their dreams. It's a tragic situation that has many disturbing undertones. The second would be the occult albums of the late 1960s and mid-70s, albums that were spoken word and contained narrations of rituals and spells. The third could just be references to witchcraft and music, like the Radiohead song Burn the Witch, for example. Fred West. As a fanatic for true crime, I'll tell you before going into this segment that Fred West is in fact one of the worst people I've learned about. I knew about him prior to researching for this iceberg, but rereading exactly what he did was horrific nonetheless. Fred West was an English serial killer from around 1967 to 1987. The majority of his 12 crimes were done with his wife, Rosemary West. In addition, there are also many crimes involving the innocents being removed from minors, so I think we'll just move on. Most disturbing movies. This really depends on what you consider the most disturbing movies. Some would consider a movie like a Serbian film to be the worst of the worst. Others may think a movie like Halloween is bad, and others may think Shoujo Tsubaki is one of the worst creations on this earth. It's all about perspective. Monkey Hate Gate. This refers to a Reddit community of the same name who research and talk about the infamous monkey hate community on YouTube. These people revel in the suffering and torture of monkeys for whatever reasons they've created in their mind. Obviously, the blatant lack of empathy and the sadistic nature of their desires lead to a lot of disturbing content. Unit 731. This unit, used by the Japanese during World War II, is one of the most horrific sites of chemical warfare and human experimentation recorded to date. The experiments done on humans while they're still alive are some of the most gruesome you'll hear. A lighter example would be prisoners getting limbs removed to test the effects of blood loss and sometimes getting them reattached to other parts of their body. Pizzagate. This is another conspiracy theory rabbit hole. Although officially debunked, many theorists will not let this one go. This conspiracy theorizes that leaked emails of John Podesta speak in coded language and refer to a certain type of trafficking ring, if you get what I mean. Allegedly, this supposed ring was supposed to be connected to a place called Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria in Washington, D.C. This is only the tip of the already debunked iceberg. However, if you fall deep enough, you never know what you might discover. Cannibal forums. This one is relatively simple. These are simply deep and surface web forums ran for cannibals by cannibals. Their discussions can range from fantasy to actual experiences to arranging meetups, as made famous by the infamous Cannibal Cafe and the crimes associated with it. Junko Furuta. Easily one of the worst crimes I've ever heard, if not the worst. Junko Furuta, a 17-year-old girl from Tokyo, was horrifically abused over the course of 40 days, to put it lightly. The 4 teenage boys who did this, Hiroshi Miyano, Joe Ogura, Shinji Minato, and Yasushi Watanabe, all committed many horrific acts for seemingly no reason. None of them are still in prison for crimes that in the US would have likely had them see the death penalty. Bug chasers. Bug chasers are people that perform bug chasing, a practice in which people purposefully look to get HIV through sex. However, this can get much darker than that, as some enjoy transmitting the virus to unwilling participants. Torture methods throughout history. There are so many insane and unspeakable things that could be referenced here. This has been going on since before recorded history, however, I will name a creative method. This one is called the tub. A person is placed into a wooden tub with only their head sticking out. Their face will be painted with milk and honey. While the flies eventually begin feeding on the victim will also continue to be fed in order to be forced to sit in their own waste. After a few days, maggots and worms will begin to feed on the decaying body while the subject is still alive. Hired hitmen. This one's pretty simple. This revolves around the practice of people hiring hitmen for their own purpose or hitmen advertising their services. Some cases can get pretty intense, and the idea that it's possible to hire someone or have someone hired to take a life or your life is, of course, disturbing. The Blue Whale Challenge. This is a game invented in 2016 that involves a series of challenges over a 50-day period, which increasingly get worse and worse as time goes on, until the participant is to more or less take their own life. The phenomena was first recorded in Russia, where deaths are known to be linked back to this game. Many incidents all over the world have also been linked to this game, including in countries like Brazil, China, and India. It did make a return with the Jonathan Galindo phenomena of 2020, but I'm not sure if anyone was ever recorded participating in it. Jonathan Galindo. Jonathan Galindo is an entity that uses a picture of a man named Samuel Canini, also known as Dusky Sam, who is a mask maker among his other talents in Goofy cosplay. Somehow this picture was the one picked to be used all over different social media under the name Jonathan Galindo. This character would contact people, especially kids, and would try to get them to play a game very similar to the Blue Whale game that was mentioned prior, Frazzle Drip. This is another conspiracy theory. This theory, created by Marjorie Taylor, apparently states that former Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner has a deep web video on his computer titled Frazzle Drip. No clue why that's the title, maybe it just seemed inconspicuously random. Anyway, this alleged video contains Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin, Weiner's ex-wife, abusing a kid, to put it nicely. I'm sure you can imagine what falling down this rabbit hole can do to an easily influenced mind. Deep Web. The deep web is the part of the internet that isn't indexed by surface web search engines. This part of the internet is much more anonymous, much less controlled, and can sometimes be much darker. Though it's really a misconception to say most things on the deep web are bad, or that there aren't many things on the surface web that are equally as bad as the deep web, if not worse. This is still a place that can take you down some dark paths if you're not careful, however. Amputation fetish. This is likely referring to apotemnophilia, which is a neurological disorder that causes the individual to have a deep desire to remove a specific limb. This could also refer to an attraction to amputees, though it's more than likely the first one. Mariana's Web. Mariana's Web is an alleged part of the internet much deeper than the deep web that contains things such as the location of Atlantis, Vatican confession archives, and other dark and mysterious secrets that humanity doesn't have the answer to. Maybe if you fall deep enough down this rabbit hole, you could find it yourself. This is self-explanatory. Even the lightest videos on these sites can be traumatizing for some, but realistically, everyone can and will find their limit if they're looking for it. Sad Satan. A game originally posted on YouTube by the channel Obscure Horror Corner, it apparently contains deep web images of different crimes involving children and violence and other things I probably shouldn't talk about. The YouTubers, some ordinary gamers, PewDiePie, Mullet Mike, and Etika have all talked about and played this game. It's been theorized that the original illegal copy was likely created by Obscure Horror Corner themselves, as the legal copy was the only one accessible by anyone else that played it. That being said, you can understand why this isn't a fun rabbit hole to fall down. Inaccessible websites. The main reason this is likely here is because these websites hold a lot of mystery. It's hard to know what could possibly be hiding on some of these sites, considering basically nobody can see them. Daisy's Destruction. This is one of the most infamous deep web videos ever created. This video, created by Peter Scully, who ran a large ring of explicit content involving children on a website called No Limits Fun, sold this specific video for up to $10,000. It involves the horrific abuse of an 18-month-old girl named Daisy. Thankfully, Peter Scully is in prison for life in the Philippines for his crimes. The Cruel Onion Wiki. This alleged deep website allows users to post themselves as animals. Nothing else needs to be said. Red Rooms. Red Rooms are alleged deep web or surface web live streams that allow watchers to pay certain amounts to view and participate in the torture of a victim that's being broadcasted. Many legends say that viewers can pay for specific things to happen, and that they're almost impossible to find. Although it's not 100% debunked, it's very unlikely. That being said, if you search long enough, you may find what you're looking for. r/female dating strategy. From my research, it seems that this is just MGTOW, or men going their own way, for women. They refer to men as scrotes and apparently have the same mindset of low value and high value people, as well as the mentality that men are more or less inferior, similar to MGTOW's views on women. I'd honestly like to see what happened if those two communities ever clashed. That being said, that was the video. I know some of my explanations weren't that in depth, but honestly I was trying to keep my monetization, which I probably didn't do that great of a job of, looking back at the script now. Anyway. Again, shout out to the creator of this iceberg, although I don't think this post is up anymore. Regardless, follow my Twitter in the description and pin comments, since I'm trying to get it to 2,000 followers by the end of the year. Like and sub with notice on if you enjoyed and got this far, and thank you for watching. Have a good day.